This is about 6 times the price of the Classic Vibe and more than double the price of the Vintera II. So you'll be asking yourself, is it better because it costs more money? Well, we'll find out. So you're in the market for a vintage-inspired Telecaster, but you don't want to make the wrong choice and you don't want to spend too much money. Well, I'm going to take 3 popular series from Fender and put them head-to-head. The Squier Classic Vibe for under $500, the Vintera II series at just over $1,200, and then the American Vintage II series, looking at the 1951 Telecaster. Hey, it's John here from Playing Trade Guitars, and if you like new guitar reviews, informative buyer's guides, and the latest and greatest in all things guitar, I'm here to steer you in the right direction. When you're shopping for new gear, you can buy new gear using my link. I make it super easy with fast free shipping and easy payment plans, and you support me and help me make these videos. So thanks for being a member of the Play and Trade Guitars community. You could drop a comment and tell me as I pull these apart on the bench and of course plug them in and play them. Which one do you prefer and why? And more importantly, which one will you buy and why? If I only could buy one vintage-inspired Telecaster on the market today, it would be... Stick with me to the end because I'll tell you. All right, so first up, here is the Classic Vibe series at $449 currently. You can click the link for all the finish options and current pricing. This guitar is going to sport a pair of Fender designed single coil pickups. It's got the 3-saddle traditional vintage design. It's got the ashtray bridge, and this guitar is actually made out of pine. You can actually see some of that wood grain. These pickups read 7.0 in bridge, 7.2 in neck, and I will tell you with the pine body, it is a bit on the heavier side. This is at just over 9 pounds, so a little bit heavier for a Telecaster. The important thing about the Classic Vibe, not only is it under 500 bucks, it's also more modern appointed with a slimmer neck. The nut is going to read 1.65 inches. The first is going to read 0.81 inches up to 0.87 inches at the 12th. And a modern 9.5 inch radius. It means that the overall playability will feel like a more modern guitar, but you get the vintage aesthetic with Classic Vibe. Here's a look at the controls. You can see these mini 250K import pots, all hand wired. This is one of the most popular guitars for good reason. So here's the Vintera II Nocaster. Why they call it the Nocaster? Well, originally this guitar was called the Broadcaster when it debuted, but they were sued by Gretsch and they had a cease and desist. They said stop using the Broadcaster name. So for a period of time they snipped off Broadcaster, and these are what are called Nocasters because they simply have the Fender logo up here. One of the most immediate things that you'll notice is the size of this neck. We have a 0.96 inches at the first up to 1.01 inches at the 12th. So definitely a chunky neck. This is a baseball bat of a neck. And I'll tell you, it's nice and lightweight. This one was actually 7.5 pounds. This has an alder body. Those Vintera II series pickups sound fantastic. This is made in Mexico. The Vintera II pickups read 6.4 in bridge, 6.8 in neck. I can slide over this single ply pickguard and you'll see that it's just routed for the single coil here. The upgraded electronics here, CTS 250K pots, cloth wiring, all hand wired. And then rounding it out, here's the American Vintage II 1951 Telecaster. This is about 6 times the price of the Classic Vibe and more than double the price of the Vintera II. So you'll be asking yourself, is it better because it costs more money? Well, we'll find out. It does feel luxurious. It has a nitrocellulose finish, unlike the others. It's also made in America, unlike the others. And it is an homage tribute to the 1951 Telecaster. Beautiful white prototype white finish, maple neck with a thicker profile, actually a little thinner than the Vintera II, believe it or not. This is going to be 0.87 inches at the first, up to 0.96 inches at the 12th. But they went the extra mile here to get all the vintage details correct. The pickups here read 6.9 in bridge, 7.5 in neck. And then I'll give you a look at the controls. All premium quality components here. Even the pickguard feels expensive. So if you're a collector or you want the high end, the absolute best, it's gonna be really tempting to look at Vintage II. However, if you're just a player who's looking for a great sounding vintage inspired Telecaster, don't pass up Vintera II or Classic Vibe. I'll show you why with the playing examples, and I'll give you my honest rundown at the end. I'll remind you, if you're shopping for one of these guitars or any other gear, click to buy new gear using my link. And also, if you hit subscribe, you'll be in it to win it with this Gibson Les Paul Standard giveaway, this red one right over my shoulder. It's a killer guitar, it's going to one of you soon. Must be subscribed to win. All right, let's get plugged in. I'll show you clean tones, we'll dirty it up, and then I'll let these all sing behind a vintage inspired track. Kind of was in a Buck Owens type of mode. So a little vintage country for you. We're gonna put these teles to work, get them twanging, but they also rock. Teles can cover every genre. I'll see you on the other side for my reactions. what did you think? I enjoyed all three guitars. I have an opinion of, I think, which one I would steer you towards if you're looking for a budget choice between the Vintera or the Classic Vibe, depending on the kind of player you are. And I think I have an idea now of who the American Vintage II is tailored for. So I'll break all that down, but first let's take another look at these guitars on the market. You can see that the Classic Vibe 50s Telecaster here in white blonde, butterscotch blonde, is also sharp, that's the one I have here. Pine body, like I said, $449. And move it over to the Vintera II, $1209. I showed you the two color sunburst, but there's also a beautiful blonde here, which looks really sharp. And finally, the Vintage II in prototype white, they also have a butterscotch blonde, which screams early 50s. I'm just a sucker for this prototype white. And this is what I want to point out too. If you're going to be buying an expensive guitar, you could break this up with no interest payment plans. For instance, you can do 12 months, $214. Makes it a whole lot easier to buy this high-end gear when you spread it out in no interest payments. That's all available when you use the link, so check that out. All right, so I've looked at these 3 vintage-inspired Telecasters, and let's go one by one, and I'll tell you their strengths and weaknesses. So remember with Classic Vibe, it's a great bargain under 500 bucks, but they make a lot of these and they make a lot of them quickly. You're gonna have to look at things like the nut and the fretwork and the setup out of the box. This guitar needed the most setup out of the box, so just remember that. And also I did find that the high E string did have a tendency, actually you can see it's doing it right now, it gets stuck on the frets. And that's because the frets have a tendency to lift on these Squiers and the fretwork is not necessarily top notch on all these guitars. The thing about Squier Classic Vibe, they are great when you get a good one. You've got to get a good one out of the box, make sure the frets are okay, make sure they're not stabbing you in the fingers, make sure the nut is cut right. So just expect that it's going to need a little bit of tinkering to get it set up, but when you do get it set up, I'm always struck at how good these guitars play and sound. The neck is fantastic. The gloss that they put on this neck makes it super playable, and it does have a smaller, faster neck, so keep that in mind. And it's just a great playing and sounding guitar for under 500 bucks. If you are the type of player who doesn't traditionally play a Telecaster, I do recommend having one Telecaster in your collection. And this is a fantastic way to do it under 500 bucks. I would definitely recommend this guitar. Just watch out for the setup. And remember, it's a great mod platform too. You can go nuts with this. It's already routed for humbucker. So the Vintera II line is my favorite made in Mexico line from Fender. Vintera II is vintage inspired and they really did an awesome job. I mean, down to the fact that this guitar has the flathead screws, you know, just like American Vintage II. It's got this thick baseball bat neck profile, the Nocaster neck profile. And it just looks and feels so good. This was also the lightest weight guitar. And from a construction standpoint, the only thing I noticed on this guitar, and you gotta watch this on some of the MIM Fenders, is the nut. They actually didn't carve out the nut very much, so you can see how easily I can pop the strings out of these, and it actually can get stuck. So this is a situation where these import guitars, they're getting aesthetically and sonically all the right things. The weight of this with the alder body is fantastic too, dead on for a Telecaster. But you just gotta watch things like fretwork. The frets were perfect on this guitar, but you know, the nut, it's cut a little bit shallow. So just keep in mind, if it's an import guitar, they're making more of them. It's why they cost less money, but you gotta watch those finishing details. If you get a good one, it's great. And this guitar played and sounded great. It's going to be an acquired taste. You're gonna really wanna have that thick baseball neck because it is definitely thick. And finally, this guitar needed absolutely nothing out of the box. Now, it's not uncommon to have to set up a guitar because of the time of year, your climate, you know, where you're going. But I'll just tell you hands down that every single component on this American Vintage II Telecaster was spot on perfection. Everything feels absolutely high end, and while it is an expensive guitar, it feels like an expensive guitar, it sounds like an expensive guitar, and it sure as heck plays like one. Every single detail on this guitar is absolutely top notch. Even the pickguard just feels expensive, I'm telling you. It's got the flathead screws, it's got all the little aesthetic details, it's got the ashtray cover here, and the hard shell case. The Classic Vibe has no case, the Vintera II has a gig bag, and this, of course, has the hard shell case that comes with it. And this is really a collector's item, but also for a professional player, somebody who's a diehard Tele player. This is the kind of guitar that I would put up next to anything and tell you, if you're gonna play it a lot on stage and you want a professional instrument and you love the vintage aesthetic and feel, this guitar, I really do endorse it. Now, that said, you don't have to spend, as hopefully I showed you with the demos, a ton of money to get a great Telecaster. I think those are all great options. Just remember that you gotta watch the finishing touches on the import guitars. This made in America is spot on. Way to go, Fender. This is how an American-made Fender should feel and sound. Every bit of this guitar is just absolutely incredible. What do you think? I'd love to hear a comment from you. Which guitar will you buy and why? If you are not a typical Tele player, I urge you to get a Classic Vibe to get acquainted with what a Telecaster can do, because it can play every genre. That middle position is one of my favorite sounds. It's something that a Stratocaster can't do. And I'll tell you what, it's just the guitar that can handle everything you throw at it. I know we went a little more vintage country with this one to kind of get some twanging out, but this guitar can handle rock, jazz, blues, country, you name it. You can play anything on a Telecaster, and it is my absolute favorite guitar. If you are buying any of this gear, click to buy that new gear using my link, scan this QR code to shop on your phone, And I'll tell you what, I'll see you on the next review with Play and Trade Guitars. I'd love to talk to you in the comments. All around winner, I gotta tell you, it might be Classic Vibe that stole the show because it is an all-around winner, and apart from a few finishing touches that you gotta watch out for, it's an absolute clear-cut winner under 500 bucks. Thanks for watching this video. See you next time. It's John here from Play and Trade Guitars. Hit subscribe if you haven't. Join this community of guitar players and traders. See you on the next review. Keep playing.